Hey everybody, good morning. What's up? Welcome back. Another video coming back quick after that conversation that Rambly had in the last one. And I did a little soul searching, spent a litting time last night putting together a list of all the cameras that I've owned. Now, before I get into the list, in case you're curious, how many cameras has Eric actually owned? This is not a flex. This is not a brag. In fact, it's shameful. I should be ashamed of this. And I kind of am. And so I'm going to go through the list of cameras that I've owned, make a couple comments here and there. And at the end, I'll tell you kind of why I'm doing this. So I've broken this down into a couple different things, mostly by manufacturer. And I'm going to start with Canon. I got a list right here on my phone because Canon was kind of, well, it wasn't where it started, but it's kind of where the gas started to kick off. And so I'm going to go with Canon, start with the DSLRs. I had the Canon Rebel T7i. It was actually my wife's, but I ended up using it a lot. At the time, people were talking about the best, like vlogging. This is Casey Neistat era, right, of things. And so then I ended up getting the Canon SL2, then the 77D, and the 80D. And those are all basically the same camera. I think there's a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor. Pretty sure that wasn't a ISO invariant sensor, but nonetheless, it was a good starter camera. Had the flip screen. You could get like the 10-18, throw the little IS on there. The problem was for photography, if you misfocus, I don't believe that was an ISO invariant sensor, and so that was a bit of a challenge. Then I went to the big dogs. I went to the 6D Mark II, and then eventually at some point later down the road picked up a 6D just to play around with. And so those are the Canon DSLRs that I've had. No 5Ds, no 1Ds. Then I went mirrorless. And so I had the Canon M50, which I think everybody had back in the day. I had the M6, which I actually really liked. I had the M5. The M5 I thought was a really, really cool camera. I thought Canon did a really good job with that. And then again, I was trying in my cheap vlogging days. I got the M100. Eventually moved to full frame, got the RP. And then as you guys might know from this channel recently, I had the R8 just not too long ago. And I had the R6 at some point as well. Somewhere along the line in Canon point and shoot, I've had the SX470HS, picked it up as like a little Van Neistat. So Casey's brother does a lot of stuff with little point and shoot cheap cameras. Anyways, G7X Mark II, G7X Mark III, but I also had the G1X Mark III, which is a cool little camera. I think it's an APS-C sensor and a little point and shoot with a flip screen. I think a 24 to 105 lens per maybe, like a f2.8 to something. Anyways, that was actually a pretty cool little camera. All right, that's it for Canon. Nikon. A lot less with Nikon, mostly in the mirrorless world. I did have one DSLR, the D780, but then I moved most of the mirrorless. I had the Z6, I had the Z6 Mark II, I had the ZFC for just a minute, I had the Z5. The Z6 Mark II I had for a bit where I actually did some work, did some weddings with that. That was actually a pretty good camera. I liked it quite a bit. But yeah, so Nikon. What's interesting about Canon and Nikon is just while I'm talking about it, the colors are totally different on those two cameras in my opinion. You can get any color to look similar, but to me, those were very different colors. Like Nikon's way more like greens and that kind of stuff, and Canon's way more magenta. Anyways, all right, Olympus. Olympus. This is kind of where I really fell in love with the Olympus brand, and this was a big kickoff on gas as well. The EM5 Mark II was the one. I still love that camera today. So I had the EM5 Mark II. I had the EM10 Mark II. Again, that was a premium camera, metal build. EM1 Mark II, which I had it during the time when they upgraded, or I did the software update and got a bunch more features in it. So that was a cool camera. Of course, I had the EM1 Mark III. I had the OM1 just for a minute. The EM5 Mark III, which is a really good little camera, but was a disappointment to me after the EM5 Mark II, just because I was really into like the build quality and stuff like that, but still a great, really good camera. The OM5, as you guys know, the Pen F, which is just phenomenal. And I had the XZ1, which the XZ1 is the little CCD point and shoot camera, which is pretty cool. Is my lighting off? Like, should I be bringing this closer to me? Maybe like that. Okay. Hopefully that's better. I don't know. All right. On to Panasonic. So again, what's interesting back in the Nikon stuff, the Z6 Mark II, I guess, is professional, but I haven't had the Z8 or the Z9 or anything like that. And then Olympus obviously had some of their pro bodies. I had the EM1 stuff. What you'll notice is I stick to like the higher end or like the middle. I don't go full tilt any of these brands. Panasonic, I had the little G100 for vlogging. I had the G7. That's actually where my dip into Micro Four Thirds started from the beginning. After having a Sony camera and a Canon camera, I picked up the G7. I thought it was a really cool camera minus the autofocus. And I think it's kind of a Micro Four Thirds cult camera. I had the G7. I had the G9, which is still an awesome camera today. I had the GH6 for a little bit. I don't think I even talked about it in this channel. I had the GX85 a couple times, as you guys know. The GX850, which is the little tiny one. Again, a great little point and shoot type style interchangeable lens camera. You can make some cool stuff with that. If you watch Marcus Picks, he talks about that camera or its predecessors quite a bit. Pretty cool little camera. I had the Alex 100 Mark II, which I think is a cool little camera. It's premium built. As you know, Leica, I think, made that the Deluxe, so they kind of shared that. I had the S5 and then the LX10. The LX10 was an awesome little camera in the fact that it had a little 1.4 Leica lens on it. Really great sharpness, good depth of field for point and shoot. I love the like there was a metal camera. That was a cool camera. Panasonic, like anything, was kind of plagued by its autofocus issues. So, and moving on from that. All right, Leica. So let's see here. Leica. I had the M8, which is the APS-H. That's a 1.33 crop CCD sensor. Back screen wasn't worth the crap. I needed IR cut filter because it would like turn blacks purple if you shot in color. So you've got to put an IR cut filter on all your lenses. But if you shot black and white, that camera is awesome, especially the CCD. It's almost like a little monochrome camera in a lot of ways. M240, I had the M10, as you guys probably know. I have the M262 right now, and I had the SL2S. So that's been my Leicas. The thing about Leica is that they're so impractical. Well, not always, but they're just cool cameras. They're just built really well. They're fun to use. Now on to Sony. Now, the camera that started all of this off was a Sony a6000. It's like my first camera that I bought. I upgraded the a6300. And from there, I played around with a bunch of stuff. I had the RX100 Mark V. I had the A5100. The ZV-1 several times because I used it for vlogging or used it for this channel. And of course the A7C and the A7 IV. I've never had A7R cameras. I've never had the A1, never the top end stuff. But yeah, Sony's good. I mean, they're soulless in some ways, but they're good cameras. Fuji. Now here's a list for you guys. Fuji, I've had pretty much every X100 camera except for the original. So I had the X100S, the X100T, the X100F, and the X100V twice actually. I had the X Pro 3. I might have played the X Pro 2 for a bit. You know what? I did have the X Pro 2. I'm going to put that on the list right now. I had the X Pro 2 for a little bit. And I love the X Pro cameras. I think they're cool. They're like little mini pseudo Leicas in a way. The rangefinder, you got the OVF, but they have autofocus, of course, and they can do video and stuff like that. XE1, XE2, XE3, XE4. I've had them all. The XE3 was actually very early on when it first came out. It was one of my steps after my Sonys before I got really into Canon. I had that camera for quite a long time, the XE3 with the 23 f2. I love that little camera. I didn't know what I had at the time. I should have kept it. XT3, XT2, XT4, XT5, had them all. I don't think I've ever had an XT1. That's kind of a legendary camera. The XS10, I know people talk about the XS10, they like it a lot. I did not like that camera in my hands, but from a capability standpoint, it's really good. I had the little XF10 point and shoot. That was a fun little camera. I had the XT30, I had the XT30 Mark II, just as recently, and I had the GFX 50S Mark II, just for a little bit there. All right, and then I think last but not least is the Ricoh. I had Ricoh GR2, I had the GR3, and I had the GR3X. All cool little cameras. I'm trying to think what other manufacturers I might have had. I never had a Pentax. Yeah, this doesn't include my film cameras. I had a couple film cameras along the way, still have some film cameras. And I also have had a couple action cameras. In fact, the one camera I've had for the entirety of this channel that I've never talked about, but it pops up once in a while and I use it, is my DJI Osmo Action. So why am I telling you all this? Because I get comments a lot, and they're very justified, by the way. I'm not complaining. I get comments quite a bit on like, hey man, like all this stuff, is this for real? Like, are you just doing this for views, or do you have a legit problem? And the answer is I have a legit problem, but nothing else in my life is like this. I don't actually like switch cars all the time, although I've bought a couple cars. I don't, like my wife, like we're happily married 7 years. I'm not running around with a bunch of different women, and I'm not house shopping and doing a bunch of stuff like that. So, you know, this is just a camera thing. And part of it is the thrill of trying things out. But the reality is it's also kind of stressful. And it takes away from a lot of time, I think, at work sometimes. It takes away from time with my family. I really enjoy it, but the reality is it doesn't matter. And so from this day forward, there's a couple rules in place. First of all, the rest of this year, I will not buy another camera. It doesn't mean I won't sell or reduce some of the setup I have currently. I might have to modify a little bit, and I might need a lens or two, but I am not going to buy or sell any more cameras that I already have currently as of today. That's number one. Because if you go back and look at even what cameras I've bought and sold this year, it averages like one every 3 to 4 weeks. That's crazy. It's not healthy. It's not good. The second thing moving forward is when I do buy a new camera, I'm going to allow myself one camera a year. Now, I was balking back and forth making it two because I kind of have two streams of mind in terms of cameras, like capable camera and passion camera, but I'm going to try to keep it to one camera a year to try out. So what does that mean for this channel? Well, I still enjoy looking at camera releases. I still enjoy talking about them. And so I think what I'm going to do is amongst other segments, I'm going to have like when a camera release comes out, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 2 weeks. I don't know, maybe it's once a month. Give my thoughts, impressions, and talk about why you should get that camera and why you shouldn't. Now, the reason why I was hesitant on that is because it's a little unfair for me to talk about a camera I've never personally used. And so maybe it makes it disingenuous, and that's the hard part. But at the same time, I don't even know what the count on that is. I'll add it up later and put it in post. I've owned a ton of cameras. And so from that perspective, I'm qualified to kind of talk about things from a gas perspective. It doesn't mean also that I won't enter like Best Buy or the camera store, put my hands on it and see what they're all about and play with it for a little bit. Might even rent along the way just to kind of, if I got a real bad itch for something. But the constant buying and selling, like for a while I was buying cheap on Fred Miranda and selling on eBay and I was making some money off the cameras. Recently I've been losing money on the cameras. And so I think it's just a bad thing. It's very unhealthy. And so it's gonna be more about around anti-gas. Outside of those types of things, it's gonna be more of like vloggy type style stuff. So for an example, I got a photo shoot coming up. I'd like to throw that DJI Osmo Action on top of the camera, give you guys a first person point of view, show you the pictures afterwards. You guys can tell me if my pictures suck, if they're good, things I could have done better, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to shoot photos for my kids' hockey team. Should I bring you guys along for that? Maybe. Got trips coming up. I got a wedding, my wedding this weekend, in fact. I might take some pictures by bringing the Leica with me. I'm the best man at my brother's wedding. I want to document some of the behind the scenes. I think that'll be kind of fun. So stuff like that is kind of what I'm interested in. If there's techniques that I'm learning or I've come across, that kind of stuff I'll talk about. I'm really poor at like the lighting and flash side of photography. And I also could like do a lot to learn on the whole creativity side of things. So it's going to be more of that kind of stuff. I love YouTube. I love making these videos. I love talking with people in the comment section. That's actually why I do this. It's not for the money. Trust me, it's not. I love opening new gear. I love trying new gear, and I love talking with people about it. But I also realize it's taken a very unhealthy turn. And so it's time for me to not be the gas king. Sorry, I'm choking on something. It's time for me not to be the gas king as much anymore and limit new cameras to either just initial reactions, my experience playing with them in the stores, or some rentals that I might do along the way and do more photography. And so I think that might mean less uploads, but that's kind of what it is. Full frame, micro four thirds, APS-C, it doesn't matter. It really is situational. And so cameras are fun to play with. But when it gets to a point like this where you've had whatever that number was of cameras, it's time to probably pump the brakes on it. So yeah, thanks for watching. And we'll call this like reverse gas now. It's like, I'll tell you why you shouldn't upgrade from what you have. But if you had this camera, maybe you should upgrade. Maybe I'll do that. Reverse gas. I'll try to help you guys this time. I know part of you guys tune in because you guys can't believe what will you possibly have next. I know. All right. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Probably talking about shots from the wedding on my Leica M262. See ya.